Hello everyone and welcome back to the Jump Force Character Reviews. Today we are covering, I should say, not recovering, because I'm fine ever since I was sick for a little bit. We are covering Makoto Shishio from Ronin Kenshin. Our swordsman character that we haven't talked about in quite some time. The last one we talked about was Kenshin, and just like Kenshin, guys, give a huge thank you to Saber King. That's what he goes by now, don't ask me why. But he helped me out with some info understanding this character because, as you folks kind of know, I don't like covering characters until I know a little bit about them from their origins. So, let's talk about him real quick for those of you who are uninitiated, I guess. Basically, this guy, if you want to know why he looks like a mummy, if you've never seen his show, is because, well, this guy was covered in oil and then he was burned alive. Miraculously, not only did this guy survive, but he decided to get his revenge. Revenge is best served hot in this guy's case due to his self-sharpening sword, and it's because of that he can kind of make fire appear. Now, unlike Luffy, who has a devil fruit which gives him magical fire powers, this guy uses human fat to ignite. Yep, he uses your own fat against you, and then sets you ablaze. So let's talk about gameplay. We're in the second round of this fight because that's when I started using this character more. And the big deal with Makoto is damage and the fire element. So let's talk about that and get underway. So Makoto's all about damage dealing, unlike Kenshin, who's more so about damage and speed. This guy's just straight up 4 damage. And here's his first move. It's his second secret arm, the Crimson Lotus arm. It's an unblockable command grab of sorts where he'll grab you and then, unlike what it looks like, where he looks like he's stabbing you, he actually ignites the gauntlets on his hands to explode because they're, for some reason, filled with gunpowder. It can be used for combos and that like, but I don't like really using it for combos that much. It can also catch pursuit users such as Luffy, All Might, the whole 9 yards. It's really great at catching foes. And as you just saw, his second move is pretty interesting and probably one of the better moves he has, called Infinity Cyclone. Now, Infinity Cyclone is a self-buff move of sorts. What that does is he'll charge at you on the ground and then hit you with a sword into the air. Now, you can do this fully for some cool animation, or you can do one of the other two things. You can set up an air combo for your teammates like Sanji and Bakugo, who are more heavily reliant on air combos. You yourself can do an air combo and get that fire damage off, or you can use it to reset your combos. There's so many ways that Infinity Cycle can be used, but the reason I don't like it as much as, say, Godspeed is because it doesn't have a defense mechanic. It's all straight offense. And you have to hit your opponent with the first stage in order to get the buff off. You don't have to do it fully, despite what people will tell you. You just have to get off the first hit of Infinity Cyclone, and you'll get the buff, which increases your attack and does fire damage on all other attacks, including your grab attack, which don't ask me why that's a thing. And then his other move we didn't go over, his first secret arm, I believe it's called Blazing Sword, or Blazing Soul. I'll put it, in the editing, but it's basically a dash attack where he hits you multiple times with his flaming sword. Pretty great for combos. It's his go-to for combos as well, such as like how Kenshin had 9 Dragon Roar. He has that. So, if fire and damage is all this guy is about, should you use fire and damage for his support? Absolutely. One of the biggest ones I like to use is Sanji. Now, Sanji is great for this because he'll hit you multiple times and then you can hit him with a blazing sword or even your Infinity Cyclone. Great for combos. However, if you're going against a female character, that's why I would recommend you not run Sanji. It's a high risk, high reward kind of thing with Sanji. So instead of Sanji, why don't we talk about who I would prefer? And honestly, it's Rukia. Rukia will help you so much with the timing of this character. He's a little bit more difficult to learn than some of the other swordsman characters, but he's kind of worth it at the end of the day. And sometimes you need a little bit more help from Rukia training wheels, let's be fair. Oh, would I recommend Makoto? Sure. The thing is, his learning curve is not that spectacularly hard, so it's a little bit easier than other characters, but still a little bit difficult. And Crimson Lotus Arm kind of has a ficky hitbox sometimes. They kind of fixed that since. But if you're looking for a damage and elemental sword wielder, then Makoto is definitely your guy. He's also great at countering anti-pursuers with his attacks, especially his ultimate, which we are going to talk about real quick before I give him his score. His final secret sword, Kagugich. Alrighty, so that move is basically one of the hardest moves to ultimates to use. I'm rewinding a bit. The problem with Kagugich is it has such short range. That's why Bruki is pretty nice to have for that kind of move. Especially looking at end combos with it. Because the thing about Kagugich is that when you go into an awakening form with Makoto, or Makoto, depending on how you want to pronounce it, it actually is the highest damage dealing ultimate in the game. It does about 50% by itself, so you can imagine if you can learn a combo with this with Rukia in your awakening state, oh boy, your opponent is not gonna like you. That being said though, is this character really that bad? Not really, it's just that his hitboxes can be finicky, and some characters do have fire resistance, so it's gonna be a little bit harder to kill them if they do have fire resistance. But at the same time, it's really hard to go against this guy. If you want to go against Makoto properly, zoning and learning when to counter is the best way I would recommend if you're going against a Makoto player. Other than that, I would say this guy, if you're looking for a swordsman, he's definitely one of the better ones. Not as great as some of the others like Zoro or even Ichigo. And if you're wondering who I prefer between him and Kenshin, I actually do prefer Kenshin because I do like a little bit more speed and diversity with my swordsman. Not to mention Kenshin does have a move that gets rid of the mobility factor from your opponent, whereas Makoto just has like a buff he can use. But at the end of the day, his character's pretty great. I would rate him the same as Kenshin out of 10, so he gets an 8 out of 10. Honestly, he's probably one of the most underrated swordsmen in the game. If you want to pick him up, go for it. He's fantastic. That's going to do it for this Jump Force character review. I'm doing more reviews very soon, so expect a little bit more of a review update. And with that being said, I will see you all later.